my hospital makes us put on bling before we do surgery.
Yeah, we do the shit in style.
We gotta wear 8 pounds of chains around our neck or we're not allowed in.
Get your grill on, put your clock on, get them rings on.
Get your monocle.
Welcome to Theoretical Nonsense, the Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required.
We're the podcast that recaps all the episodes of the Big Bang Theory. No spoilers.
So hop into your favorite spot.
Make yourself a grasshopper.
And enjoy the ride. Hello there, Ryan.
Hello, Rob.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
Wonderful, because we just watched the White Asparagus Triangulation.
Yeah, we did.
For any new listeners out there, I'm Rob, and this is my co-host Ryan. We are Theoretical Nonsense, the podcast that recaps, reviews, and deep dives facts from the Big Bang Theory, which we call IQ points. I've seen the series multiple times, but this is Ryan's first time watching, so we do our best to do no spoilers. Ryan has also been told he's very similar to being Sheldon, so we keep a tally point of how close he is to being a Sheldon. How are we doing, Ryan?
Last week's episode, last two episodes had a lot of me not being like Sheldon, so it's 46 not Sheldon to 39 Sheldon, but I'm going to give you a hint. We had some Sheldon points build up in this episode, so it's going to come.
All right. Can't wait to hear them. So, like I said, we're Theoretical Nonsense. You could find us on Instagram at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Check us out on YouTube now. Like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Shoot us an email at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And if you give us a 5-star review, we'll give you a shout out. Which we actually have one of each. We have a new email and a new 5-star review.
Time for some shout outs.
Yeah. Where would you like to start, Ryan?
I'll start with the podcast review. So it's a 5-star podcast. It's from Christine 1983-4 or 19834. Love this podcast. So happy to finally be able to find the Big Bang Theory recap podcast. Been looking for one for a long time. The banter between the two hosts is so much fun to listen to. Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. I like hearing that. Well, I love being called a host. Like, we're a podcast host. It makes me feel fancy.
I know. It's like, who are they talking about? And it's like, oh, it's us.
Oh, shit. That's me.
We have good banter. Look at that. Just our normal conversation.
That's good banter. I like that.
You should hear us play Diablo then.
Seriously.
Well, we got an email. It's an email from Rebecca again. She sent us an email, which we gave her a shout out last time. So she sent us another one. So here we go. She says, Rebecca here again. I'm slowly catching up on the Cooper-Nowitzki theorem. This episode brings up brisket. I'm Jewish and surprisingly don't like brisket along with many other things, such as chocolate and coffee. Shocking. However, brisket is a common staple at the dinner table throughout all of our holiday celebrations. If you have any questions about Judaism, feel free to ask, which we will definitely hold you to that. With Howard as a main character, I'm sure I'm going to have a lot of questions. So, Rebecca, please be on standby. And there will be lots of statements, topics, and a sleepaway camp that are mentioned because Howard is Jewish. I have a family brisket recipe that is very simple. This was my great-grandmother's recipe. Let me know if you have any trouble viewing it. Thanks again for all your hard work and dedication. And Rebecca, thank you for the brisket recipe. We're looking forward to trying it. Since it's your grandma's recipe, we won't share it with everyone else because I'm sure it's a family thing. But Ryan and I were just talking offline on this, and we're going to cook through it, and we'll tell you about it. We'll post some pictures on our Instagram.
Smiling and eating it.
Yeah.
Freeze frame.
I'm really looking forward to it. It sounds delicious.
So I don't think I've ever made brisket in the oven before. I've smoked it, but never in the oven. So this is going to be new. But I'm excited.
I have oven cooked brisket before, but I've tried simulating smoking it, whereas like you rub it and then you add
Oh,
like some liquid smoke. It was like during the winter season when I didn't want to
go
go
outside.
outside. So that's like the only time that I've ever done that. Where otherwise, I usually smoke a brisket.
Mm.
I'm sure that you're the same way. I'm sure you smoke a lot of briskets.
I try. I try. They, during COVID, they were a little hard to come by. So I got more into pork tenderloins, and I've done some lamb. I love lamb. But I want to get back into the brisket side of things.
Well, hopefully, it's available now.
Yeah.
All right.
Uh,
No neighbor update. I
no,
think that chapter is pretty much closed in my life now. And if you're a
nah.
new listener out there, I strongly suggest you go to our episode 22, which was season 2, episode 4, The Griffin Equivalency, especially if you're a true crime fan. Something happened in my world, so I strongly recommend you check it out.
I'm gonna say it's not gonna be over until the accused party is in jail or found not guilty.
Yeah, I actually haven't looked her up in a while, so I'll have
And
to, I'll have to see. But as
I'm
far as
also
I
curious
know,
about who moves in there next and how you treat them. Like, how are you guys doing?
I know. It's still being fixed right now. So like the new windows are up and the sliding door is going in. But like yeah, I it'll be a couple more weeks until it's like fully done and then they're going to put it back on the market. So who my new neighbor is going to be very interesting.
What was
And
that
if they know
joke?
the story.
Yeah, right. That's a big thing. Like,
If they
you,
don't, oh my god, if they don't, should I tell them or should I just like be like
you just like drop hints like you don't hear voices, do you? Like at night, do you hear gunshots?
Oh man, do you think it's my civic duty to tell them? Would you want to know? Probably.
I think I'd want to know. I'd want to know. But like that wouldn't detract me from staying there. I just want to know for the hell of it. I'd be like, oh, okay
Well,
then.
technically, no one died in there. At least not that I know of.
It was on the
But
way
anyways,
to the
yeah.
hospital, so it's okay. It's not a
Yeah.
murder scene.
Yeah, it's not haunted. You're fine.
It's not haunted.
Don't be such a baby. You'll be fine.
I gotta go though.
See you never. All right. I think that's it for housekeeping. Did you have anything?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. You want to talk about yeah, thinking about doing a small episode every other week. So
That's right. So we got an email last time, which we read out, about having us do more content. Currently, with our schedules, it's been a little bit challenging to do the Big Bang Theory recap deep dive every week. That's why we're doing it every other week. So we Ryan and I were talking about doing a mini-sode every other week to coincide with our every other week. So we were talking about what topics that we would want to do. I know you're all here for Big Bang Theory, but in the Venn diagram of Big Bang Theory fans and nerd culture, there must be something else that Ryan and I could do in between. So we were actually thinking about watching all the Star Treks, starting with the movies and kind of just talking about them. Just like a nice little short 20-minute episode, just no deep dives, just talk about it because I'm sure everybody loves Star Trek talk.
right, and if you haven't seen the Star Treks, maybe it'll help us be more informed for the show and understand, appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah, we've been pretty transparent about that. Ryan and I are more Star Wars fans,
Hmm.
so I've actually never really seen a lot of the Star Trek movies, but Ryan has, and
I've
I've
seen
never
some
seen
of the
any of the
newer
shows.
ones. I've never seen the older ones.
Yeah. So let us know. Shoot us a DM on Instagram. Let us know what you would want to see. Shoot us an email. Just what are your thoughts? Do you want us to dive into the past of Star Trek or do you want us to go into the future with new content that's coming out? Like there is that new show Picard. There's a bunch of new Star Wars content coming out.
Or we could do like a
Yeah.
mix where we do half an episode of Picard and then the third movie of Star Trek. Or
Yeah.
just mix and mash and like no sense. Now, there's a lot of us to go around, and we're looking forward to what you guys want to hear. So,
Yeah, so we're here for you. So whatever you want to hear, let us know, and we'll
yeah.
do it. Maybe. We'll see. Nothing horror, and my only request is nothing in the theaters currently, because I barely have time to do anything with my newborn. Well, I guess he's not a newborn anymore. He's an infant with my
Infant.
infant. Going out and seeing a movie is damn near impossible. So I'm going to say anything that's on stream would be appreciated.
Did I tell you about when I went to see Scream 6 a couple weeks ago? It was like a month ago at this point.
I think you told me, but
Mm,
did you tell us off camera?
it must have
I
been
think it
off
might have just
camera.
been us. Yeah.
It was a no good day, but it started off with me getting to the theater, and through a series of misfortunate events, I ended up at the wrong theater because there's two in the same area, and instead of like the person checking my tickets, they're like, it's fine, go on in. And the theater that they had the same number of theaters or rooms, and there was no title above it. So I went in thinking, okay, this is Scream 6. And I went in, and first of all, there's a couple in front of me talking about the actor William Dafoe. I'm like, that's weird. I don't think Dafoe's in Scream 6. And they're like kids and babies in the theater. Like a baby was crying, kids were running up and down. I'm like, that's really weird to take some babies to see Scream 6.
Something's wrong
Who
here.
am I to judge? My parents took me to weird stuff. And the movie starts, and it's like overheads of New York City, which by all means, Scream 6 actually starts very similarly, except this starts with William Dafoe, and it was a movie called Inside, where he gets trapped in an apartment, and he's like stuck there. And it took like probably a good 5-10 minutes to realize that, yeah, I don't think this is Scream 6. But the whole series of things leading up to being stuck in that movie. Point is that, Rob, if you really want to, you can bring your baby to see whatever movie you want to see.
Yep, and let him cry throughout
Let
the
him-
entire time. People would
Exactly.
really appreciate that.
I did.
There's nothing more joyous than the cry of a baby.
But it
Remember
made a lot
that
more
the next
sense.
time you're on an airplane.
Oh, that beautiful sound of the babies crying.
Well, let us know what you want us to do in between episodes. Maybe it could be Big Bang Theory content related. Not sure what we would talk about, but
Or we could just like cook briskets, smoke briskets, and drink beer. I don't know. We could do that.
yeah, just have a little chat.
Yeah.
Has nothing to. Yeah, people are gonna love that. All right. So, White Asparagus Triangulation.
Here we go.
All right. Overall thoughts?
I love this one. It spoke to me. I was happy. There was a lot of Sheldon in it. There's some good Penny. I like this one.
I loved it so much that I literally, like, when I was doing research on this, I watched it twice. I watched it and then I just hit replay.
Go again.
I loved, all the Sheldon stuff was so great. I loved just watching how socially dumb he is.
Yeah.
And even when you try to call him out on it, he's like, no.
It's fine. I'm doing fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing life right. And like I said last time on the last episode, I really do like Dr. Stephanie Barnett. I really like her character.
Yeah.
And this was one of the reasons why, because it shows who she is as a person and how caring and how nice of a person she is. Because most people wouldn't deal with Sheldon.
At
like
all.
Imagine if you were dating someone and they had a crazy roommate that would just not leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like most people, I would say most normal people would just be like a little bit turned off by it. Like, what's happening right now? But at least she was a lot more open to it.
And I was a little worried too, because he met her last episode because she was hanging out with Howard, right? And she was very upfront that Howard had no chance, right? He was wearing an eye patch. But I was still kind of worried that maybe she's just like playing or something. But it's clear that she's actually a really caring person and an interesting character at this point. So, I like seeing her come back.
Yeah. And as Sheldon said, of all the women that Leonard has dated, she's one of the most tolerable ones, if not the only. Yeah, like I really like this episode. I actually found it was a lot of fun researching stuff too. I actually did find 11 IQ points.
Wow.
Some of them are very short. I actually could have done more, but like there were some things I was like, that's not worth doing. There's no point.
Yeah, I think I had 7, and then I ended up canceling one, so I think I have 6 like pretty decent ones. There were some that I could have done more with, but I felt like they were solid IQ points though, and I enjoyed looking into them.
Yeah, I had a lot more than 11, and then I just decided to just axe them off because like that's not worth that. You know what? That's not worthy. That's not worthy. Yeah. So
You're not worth an IQ point.
but shall we get started?
Yeah, so season 2, episode 9, White Asparagus Triangulation. This aired November 24th, 2008. Writers Chuck Lorre, Bill Prady, and Stephen Ingle. Director Mark Zendrowski. And I'm guessing that this was probably taking place over Thanksgiving. So I'm guessing no Thanksgiving special, at least this year. So I was a little sad by that. But, there's like 10 more seasons to go or something. So maybe. Okay, so we start off at the mailboxes, and Sheldon is trying to talk to Penny, and he starts off by saying, "What is shaking?" And I immediately identify with Sheldon here because I don't really know. I don't get the small talk. I don't understand it, and I don't know how to start conversations. And I usually start off with something weird. So I completely don't know how to start conversations.
Well, you might appreciate some of the IQ points that are coming up. Then.
And he's asked her, how is the weather?
Sup?
And she's like, please don't do that, right? She's like, this is weird. And I feel like people have given me that look before, so I understand where he's at, and he's trying his best. And he admits he has something awkward to discuss, and so he's trying to bring this up. And
he wants to do a little bit of chit chat to kind of set the stage. And I associated this with what Leonard did with Sheldon in the past. Season 1, episode 13, the Bat Jar Conjecture.
Yeah.
When Leonard had to have an awkward conversation of kicking Sheldon off the team, he had some chit chat and he gave him the Bat Jar.
the gift, right? We're gonna give him a gift.
Yep.
He asks if she knows that Leonard is in a sexual relationship. She says the feeling is actually awkward now. It's getting awkwarder. And I thought this was weird because when she was in the laundry room with Leonard and mentioned he was having sex, she was like, "Go you, nice." But now when Sheldon says it, she's like, "Okay, ew," right?
Well, yeah, I think it's having the conversation with the person in the relationship versus someone just talking about it. It's kind of like if you and I had a mutual friend and was like, "Hey, how about their sex life, huh?" It's like,
People
that's a
don't
little.
do that. Huh. All right, I guess this. I'm glad I gave that point to Sheldon because.
And there's the first IQ point, everyone. Don't do that shit. Don't talk about everyone else's sex life.
So I can only talk about my sex life? Oh, that's boring.
That doesn't sound right.
That doesn't sound right. No, I disagree. Okay, so Sheldon admits that Leonard's relationship is important because she's the first tolerable companion that he's met, and he doesn't want Leonard to lose her. And I like that Penny looks insulted, and she's like, "Well, what about me?" And he goes, "The statement stands, right?"
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd have the gumption to say the statement stands, but I'm giving another point to Sheldon because I say things like that sometimes, like not meaning insults, just like kind of speaking freely. Like, yeah, she's the first tolerable person. People are like, "What about me?" I'm like,
It was just very factual, and that's
yeah,
like I didn't mean anything by it. I'm just stating the facts.
very factual insults that were accidents. It happens, more than I like to admit, I guess. But, it's like students asking me, "So do you think I'm gonna pass?" Oh no, you're dumb. I've never said that, but you know, oh, no, God, no, 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 no. So Sheldon says Penny's needs Leonard's girlfriend to not see Penny as a sexual rival, that could become a problem, and Penny nods. She's pretty safe. There's nothing to worry about. Sheldon gives a hypothetical situation and like goes into depth about Penny being in her room alone at night and starting to think about needing to hook up, and well, she's just gonna have to suppress her libido, right?
Yep.
And this was a laugh out loud moment when she goes, "Well, I could always think about you." And Sheldon just kind of goes over like, "Well, whatever works." But,
do what you got to do.
Yeah, like, doesn't even see the sarcasm in that.
Nope.
And then we get the introduction. So after the introduction, we get the apartment, Sheldon eating dinner with Leonard, and Leonard is clearly on a date, and Sheldon says he's having fun, even though Leonard said there wouldn't be enough pasta.
Yep, I like Sheldon, how just oblivious of social cues. You said that there would never be enough pasta.
There was plenty of pasta, and later on he goes, "There's even pasta left over."
Well, this goes into my first IQ point.
I have some information here too, so you
about
start
pasta.
About pasta.
Yeah. So, first IQ point, Sheldon says that an Italian housewife rule of thumb, a handful of pasta 1 inch in diameter is sufficient for each person as it doubles in volume. So I don't necessarily agree with this. I understand the logic. Yes, it does double in volume. All pasta does, if not a little bit more. But I won't necessarily say it's sufficient for everyone.
I was gonna say, and people usually sit down for a bowl of pasta or a plate of pasta, and they want huge servings. Like that's part of pasta is that you want to be extra full because it's relatively easy and good, right?
Yeah, it's delicious. Who can? I mean, you don't want a small little thing, even with extra vegetables and protein. You want more. So, but if you want to be a responsible eater, sure, have that as a serving size.
Who wants to be responsible?
Yeah. Well, I couldn't figure out anything about the Italian roots of this one, if it is an Italian housewife rule of thumb, but I did find on Taste of Home other ways to measure your pasta. So there are 6 ways that they had on there. So 1 is compared to a quarter, and this only works for long strands. So this is very similar to what Sheldon suggested, because a quarter's diameter is actually less than 1 inch. But if you think about it, if you hold it up and it's about the diameter of a quarter, that's about a serving size.
And I guess if you're not in the U.S., I don't know what type of coin would be equal to
Is it a toonie?
A toonie?
Or is that bigger? A loony or a toonie?
That's a cartoon show. I know that. That's Bugs Bunny.
Wait a minute. Sorry, Canada.
You almost had us wrong.
Well, number 2. This is for smaller shapes like macaroni or rigatoni, but if you put it in the palm of your hand, fill a closed fist, and it's supposed to be approximately to 1 cup of cooked pasta. I don't know if I really like that one. It's like really just pour it into the palm of your hand and whatever mounds up there. I don't know.
Just keep pouring. Yeah, no.
Yep, there it is. Number 3, save a soda bottle. So basically, the exact same logic as the coin and the 1 inch diameter. If you fill the hole with long strands of pasta, that's the serving size. But that's kind of a weird, unique
That
thing
is,
to do.
yeah.
Taste of Home, I don't know if I believe you or trust you as a website anymore. I'm sorry. Number
Going with like
4.
random empty circles, like what?
Yeah.
What?
Number 4 is a cop out answer. It's use a scale. So just measure it out.
No.
Number 5, make muffins. And if you're listening to the podcast, I just did air quotes on muffins because you would fill muffin tins with the cooked pasta, and however much is in that mold is a serving size, which seems very small.
Seems really small.
Yeah. And then the last one is probably the more logical one, is use the hole in your pasta spoon. Because everybody usually has a pasta spoon. It's the thing with the claw with the little hole in it. So that hole is very, again, similar to the 1 inch diameter logic and the soda bottle and the quarter. If you fill in the pasta in that hole in the spoon, that's about a serving size.
That's about what I came up with too. Did you have more to add to that?
Nope.
I was
But
gonna say,
I've lost my faith in Taste of Home, though.
yeah.
So I guess they're not going to sponsor us.
They're not going to taste my home anymore. I don't even know what that means.
I got you.
I got you. Wink, wink. I got your hole to fill right here.
Yeah. Whoa. Hello.
So I got, that roughly a handful of dry pasta doubles, and technically a serving size, according to Bria.com, is supposed to be about 2 ounces. And 2 ounces is a suggestion of about a cup dry pasta or a handful. Which I guess with muffin tin it would be about the same too, but I swear a muffin pan seems smaller than a cup.
Yeah, unless it was like dry, but I know the website said cooked. That's why I was like really confused. I was like, really? Cooked pasta in the muffin tin? That does not seem like enough.
Yeah, unless you had like deep or like huge muffins. I don't know.
How big is your muffin? Are you
Ryan,
bluffing with this muffin?
That's a cake pan, Ryan. No, muffin pan.
Muffin.
And then I got the same thing about the quarter for long pasta. And for shapes, I got from a couple websites saying that shapes don't expand as much as you think they do. So you could technically pour it into a bowl and see kind of guesstimate in the bowl, like if this did expand a little bit, would it be enough? And I'm guessing that one's probably a lot less scientific than any of these other ones. But I got that. I got a little bit from Taste of Home stuff too, with the, oh man, I didn't write it down, but I know I found it. The notion that the spoon can be used, but for my other research, I understood that not all spoons have the same hole size, and not all spoons are created equally, and you might get like multiple holes, or like you're really banking on your spoon was designed in a way Taste of Home was hoping it would be designed. So I don't know, but I have seen there's a meme online that says use your spoon to calculate pasta servings. I don't know. I figure cook the box and figure it out, the rest out later.
Yeah, the whole thing.
The whole thing.
It's nice. It's nice to have leftovers,
right? Yeah. And it's not like it's super expensive, so if I have to throw a little spaghetti away, it's better than going hungry, right?
Yeah.
Or having my.
I've actually never actually used the pasta spoon. I've always had one, but I've never used it. It's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this shit?
I think I use it, but I use it like on when my other spoons like are dirty. I end up busting out the pasta spoon, so it's like I have to figure out how to flip these pork chops. Pasta spoon, come out here.
I'll figure it out. It has a little claw thing.
Yeah.
Must be useful somehow.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Yeah, I just use tongs. Like
Oh,
I use tongs a lot, like whenever I need to get my like the pasta out and everything like that. It's like,
good. That's a good idea. The thing I'm always scared about the tongs scratching the pots because I have metal tongs, right? Well, I guess
mm.
most are, but
Yeah, you could invest in like the silicone tipped ones
ooh,
where like the clamp part is like rubber and everything like that. Except in my experience, they're a lot weaker.
oh,
They start warping really easily and everything like that. So if you're good with chopsticks, you could use chopsticks too.
I'm not that good. Well, actually, no, I take that back. I'm great with chopsticks, but my hands are weak little things. I can't, I
I
can't
can't
do
do a
it.
whole
Yeah,
pasta thing. It's
yeah,
like, what am
that's
I supposed to do with this?
I'm a delicate little flower on my wrist.
Fuck it. Just drain it all out.
Just drain it.
Colander. Just drain it out. You're done.
Use your hands. It's a handful of pasta.
Yeah.
Here's your pasta. Here's your pasta. Okay, so done with the pasta. Stephanie
Yes.
says it's interesting, the little tidbit about the housewives. And Sheldon says she's very nice. But I like Leonard says she doesn't mean it. And I actually get a third point for being like Sheldon because there have been times where I'm like, oh, thank you. I thought it was interesting too. And people are like, Ryan, they didn't really think it was interesting.
They're
Or,
just being nice.
yeah, not knowing when people are being nice when they say something is interesting. Although I should say that I have learned this with my beer when I make beer. If somebody says my beer tastes interesting, it's a bad thing. It's always a bad thing. So
Yeah, in that context, it's never a good thing.
it's never, no way, shape, form. Yeah, so I'm kind of learning there, but over the most part, it's hard for me to understand.
You know what? There's nothing interesting about your beer.
It's just
How
not
about that? Yeah. Yeah, good.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. I
Now I'm
got you,
sad.
man.
I'll go have another beer.
Not one of yours.
No, of course not.
Burn.
That shit's interesting.
Too interesting.
Too interesting. I just got. I entered. It wasn't really a taste competition, but a beer.
I'm here. Don't worry.
Like, do you disappear?
I'm plugging in my computer.
Beer taste test. I wasn't able to make it, but there were like 12 of us brewing the same recipe with different hops. And I went through the list of what the tastes were, and one was like piney, one was like mango, one was like grapefruit, and mine's butterscotch. And I'm like, I fucked something up. And usually that means it's a diacetyl type thing. Something went wrong with the yeast, but I don't know what it was. But I tell you, it was very disheartening to basically look over all these beautiful flavors, and mine came to interesting butterscotch. I'm like, damn.
Well, that's not really your fault. You didn't choose that one, did you? Like, it was one of those things like everybody just kind of like, it sounded like everyone just had to pick something different.
We picked hops, but it was something about my brewing process that caused the butterscotch taste. And I'm not quite sure. I think it had something to do with the yeast was stressed because I couldn't get my fermenter up. I think it started fermenting at like 59 degrees, and really you want it at like 65. And after a couple days, I tried to raise it slowly, and I finally got it to 65. And then I let it ferment for a couple weeks until it stopped fermenting. The gravity was where I needed it to be, and I let it sit for a couple days, and I moved it over. And usually in those couple days, it's supposed to clean up that butterscotch flavor. And for some reason, it didn't. I don't know if I should have raised the temperature even higher or if I did something else wrong, but interesting. It was interesting.
58 seems kind of low.
It was low.
I thought like, because I take it was an ale then, because it was a little bit warmer, but I thought ales had to be slightly warm.
It was in my garage, and I had it on a heating pad, and it was just too cold in my garage, and I ended up having to go out there and turning the heating pad up even more and putting blankets around it to get it past, because I didn't
Dang.
want, I actually wanted it at 65, but it was like hard to maintain that, especially from the beginning, because I assumed that it would have been fine because it's always been fine. But technically I used to have it like in a drop down freezer, and the drop down freezer kind of worked as an insulator, but I got rid of that because it completely broke and it wouldn't chill in the summer. So now it was just sitting in my garage. But yeah, it's supposed to be about 65 degrees, between 60 and 70 for most strains of yeast for ales. Once you start going above that, up into the mid 70s, you start getting like fruity off flavors, like not even good fruit, like pear and apple-y kind of, or even pumpkin. Some interesting. It gets interesting. That's that word. Interesting.
Yep. So let that be a lesson to everybody out there. If somebody describes something as interesting, that's not a good thing.
It's probably not. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if they say you have an interesting personality.
You're a very interesting person.
You're a very interesting person, Ryan.
Now please leave me alone.
So I got to go.
I gotta go and get a restraining order.
Yeah.
You're so interesting. You deserve a restraining order. All right. So man, I have another Sheldon coming up too. Sheldon says Leonard's dropped the conversational ball and he has to pick up the slack. And he asks Stephanie if she's ever witnessed a violent crime.
For the first question, it's like, oh God.
And that's, I could see me asking somebody like that exact question. I don't think I've done it, but like, I don't know. You've seen me meet people. I come up with the weirdest shit to talk about, and it's usually not great.
Yeah, I've been in situations like that too, where it's like you're almost like there's too much pressure, so then you kind of just start talking and start rambling, and then it's like, the fuck did I just ask?
It's like that episode of Friends, right, where Ross is flirting with the girl, and he's like,
the pizza girl, yeah.
He's like, you know,
I like little boys.
I like little boys. Propane's not the only gas that smells. Like,
it's like, oh my God, that was flirting.
So yeah, definitely worth a point there for Sheldon. And then he asks her what her favorite fruit is, and she says strawberry. He goes, technically not a fruit. And this is where we get second IQ point.
All right.
Did you do some research on this?
I did.
You want me to start, or you want to start?
I'll go.
You go. Go for
it. I'll go. So, the second IQ point, are strawberries not a fruit? So, Sheldon is correct. And I found this on carnegiemuseums.org and fruitel.com.
That's where I went too.
Same sites?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, the first thing that we need to ask ourselves is, what is a fruit and what's a berry? So first, a fruit is a mature, thickened ovary or ovaries of a seed-bearing plant, together with accessory parts such as fleshy layers of tissue or pulp.
Doesn't that sound disgusting?
Yeah, the description of that is not the most appetizing.
A fleshy layered ovary. Like, oh, okay.
And also, the last qualifier to be a fruit is its seeds need to be enclosed in its flesh. Cool. So what's a berry? A berry is a subcategory of fruits that has its own definition as well. A berry is an indehiscent fruit derived from a single ovary and having the whole wall fleshy. So much flesh talk.
It's so fleshy.
And berries are not always tiny. Botanically speaking, eggplants, tomatoes, and avocados are classified as berries. And a strawberry is not a berry. And this is why. Botanists call the strawberry a false fruit. It's referred to as a pseudocarp or an accessory fruit. One strawberry actually contains multiple tiny individual fruits embedded in a fleshy receptacle. The brownish or whitish specks, which are commonly considered seeds, are the true fruits of it, called achenes, which is a small, dry, hard, one-seeded indehiscent fruit. And each of them surrounds a tiny seed. And fun fact, strawberries are actually part of the rose family.
Oh.
Yeah, so not a fruit. They, like, botanically speaking, it is not technically a fruit.
But the way I understand it, it kind of is. It's like a pseudocarp, a pseudo fruit, because it's combined of a lot of mini fruits.
So with their powers combined,
Fine. They're like the Voltron of fruits.
yeah.
Or the Power Rangers of fruits. I don't know.
The Captain Planet.
The Captain Planet, yeah. Strawberries are the Captain Planet fruit. And I thought it was interesting that technically those little specks aren't the seeds. Is that my understanding? That the seeds are actually inside. That those specks, those crunchy things, are what hold the seeds.
The crunchy part is the seed is within the crunchy part.
That's the way I understood it.
Because all the seeds are on the outside of it, and each
Yeah.
one of those little seed, or at least like the white little thing that we see, is actually a fruit. But there's actually like a layer around it.
And then the seeds inside that layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. So the actual strawberry itself is more of a vessel of the other fruits. Like the fruits are growing on top of it.
Yeah, fleshy fruit holder or something.
Yeah.
Huh. So weird. Yeah. But technically, if you pick one of those seeds off and eat it, or that would be a fruit. So it's kind of I don't know.
Picking it off.
Grab
your little tweezers. One little tweezer at a time.
So that's all I got for the strawberries and fruits too.
Nice.
I thought it was interesting too. I think it was Carnegie Museums mentioned that rhubarb is often considered a fruit, but it is a vegetable, and that makes sense to me because
there's no seeds.
There's no seeds. It's just like
a stalk.
stem. Yeah, the stalk.
Yeah,
it's like celery, right? But it tastes different. So yeah, we can't go on what it's baked in or what it tastes like. It's
or how it's utilized.
How fleshy its ovary is.
Getting hungry.
I'm so hungry. Where's my brisket?
Well, but I actually can just transition into the third IQ point.
Go for it.
So, per Sheldon not being able to have a conversation, or at least do it correctly, and him mentioning that Leonard dropped the conversational ball, I decided to do a little bit of deep dive on what are the best conversational openers and how to keep a conversation going. And
threats.
Surprise! You will converse with me.
Talk to me.
I thought that this could just be useful to anybody. So I found the first part, the best conversational openers, on the scienceofpeople.com. It was an article called 57 Killer Conversation Starters, so you can start a conversation with anyone, anytime. And honestly, after reading this, I'm going to find a way to integrate this in my life. So
have you ever witnessed a violent crime is number one.
Number one. How many murders have you seen? Well, just the one.
My neighbors got killed.
But I did not witness it.
I did not witness it.
So this article is broken down into different conversational categories. But since this is more or less of a, in quote, first date with Sheldon and Stephanie, since it's like the meet and greet, it's the get to know you part, I decided to stick with the topics conversation starters for any situation and starters for a first date. And in no particular order, I decided to choose my top 5 because I'm not going through all 57 of them. So in no particular order, number 1, working on anything exciting lately?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a perfect for any work situation. If you have a coworker that you're trying to like have small talk with or get to know, or even on a first date, I think this works too. And I feel like it's a more interesting way of saying what's new. Because when people say what's new, you're more inclined to just say nothing. But if you actually get a little bit more specific with the question, working on anything exciting lately,
And
it
I
kind of
like
opens up the door.
that choice word exciting, because at first, like even just talking, I thought you said anything interesting lately. And from what we've talked about, interesting, that's a bad thing. So exciting.
Exciting.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
that keyword in there. Exciting.
Yep. Not interesting. Exciting. Number 2, what was the highlight of your day so far?
Ooh.
Or alternatively, you could ask for the highlight of the week.
What
Number
was the
3,
highlight of your life?
this exact moment here.
Meeting you.
That actually might go well on a first date. Number 3, what job did you want to do as a kid? Number 4, which of your family members are you most like? And number 5, what's the most important thing I should know about you? So, great conversation starters. And now, how to keep the conversation going. How to not drop the conversational ball, as Leonard did. So, I found this on mindbodygreen.com. Article is called 10 Expert Tips to Help You Have a Better Conversation. And I just chose 5 of them, just so we didn't drag it on. 1, get curious. Show a genuine interest in a topic about them. And use this phrase, I'm curious what you think about ...
Violent crimes.
Yeah. So Ryan, I'm curious of what you think about violent crimes.
Yeah. I think they're interesting.
Number 2, find common ground. Very similar to what Sheldon did with Galveston, Texas. You got to find a common ground amongst the person you're talking to.
And that does more than just build the conversation, but it builds a
Connection.
that empathy and chemical dependence, not dependence, but yeah, this is a chemical bond in there, right?
Yeah. 3, an obvious one. Make sure it's a good time to talk. You don't want to just like bust into someone else's meeting or when they're in the middle of something.
I've done that. It was awkward.
Oh, Ryan.
I think I even told you about when it happened. Well.
Number 4, listen intently. Be engaged and interested. Active listening can strengthen your relationship. Focus on listening to what they're saying, not what you're planning on saying next. So that's a good learning lesson for me. I have this tendency of like always pre-planning what I'm going to say. So I don't always listen the best.
Yeah, I think it's between pre-planning and just straight up OCD where I get distracted. It's like they're talking, I'm like, oh, bright colors, like, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm in the middle of a conversation. What were we talking about?
That's very interesting.
That's very interesting.
And the last one, ask open-ended questions. Choose this over yes or no questions that can abruptly end a conversation. And that's how you keep a conversation alive.
I like it. And I honestly, I feel like I probably would have been into Sheldon's question about the violent crimes and probably would have been talking about it because I haven't seen one, but that's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, he builds that connection with asking her where the medical internship is, and it turns out that she interned where he was born, right?
Yeah, Galveston, Texas, which has actually been in the news a lot lately. I don't know if you've been like on NPR or CNN and stuff like that, but it's been in the news a lot lately because it's sinking.
Is it sinking? I can see that. Yeah.
With the rising sea levels, it's sinking.
Have you ever been to Galveston?
I have not.
I went for a couple days last year. I was boarding a cruise from there, and it is... I don't know how to describe it. it's more like a Caribbean island than it is an American coastal town. It's just like really relaxed. There's beaches for like it seems like miles, and like there's bars on the beaches, and it's just beautiful and relaxing. So I'd be kind of sad if it did sink.
Yeah. That's what happens with coastal cities, I guess.
They had some interesting breweries. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Time to move inland.
Yeah, so I like that Sheldon says he spent a lot of time at that hospital, and that made me laugh. It wasn't a huge joke, but just the what's the what that could indicate. Like, yeah, I was there a lot as a kid. Like, oh man,
like what?
And he brings up his helicopter ride when he was 12 because he had radiation burns from building his own CAT scanner.
Yep.
And he clarifies that he didn't try to build one. He actually did build one, and he was able to see the insides of his sister's guinea pig until he caught fire.
Poor guinea pig.
And
first signs of a sociopath.
Well, not completely, because he wasn't doing it to hurt the guinea pig. He was doing it because he wanted to learn. The sociopath would be doing it just to see the guinea pig squirm.
Okay, that's fair.
I know these things.
Well, if anyone's interested, I don't know exactly what episode it was, but we did talk about this.
Yeah.
That was one of the IQ points, the differences between a sociopath and a psychopath. So feel free to listen to all of our episodes to find that one.
Start over and tell us which one it was.
I think it was the one with Cousin Leo.
Yeah,
because we were talking about. Yeah.
All right, so he says that this started a saying in his family: "Not a snowball's chance in his CAT scanner." And I didn't give myself a point like for this, but because I don't think it's me as much as I connect with his family, that my family would come up with a humorous saying for something bad. And I remember, just an example. When I was a kid, I want to say I must have been like 7. I fell down a waterfall. It wasn't a steep waterfall, but it was a fast one. It was kind of like a steep whitewater rapid type thing. But I definitely blacked out for a little bit and could have died. And when my dad and this guy pulled me out, I was fine. I had some scratches on me. And my dad had a video camera, but like when I fell in, I guess he dropped it and picked it back up after I was out and I was okay. And did a little interview with the family about the situation we had just had. And he goes, "So we're going to enter this video on America's Deadliest Videos. How do you feel, Ryan?" And I like laugh and then I burst into tears. Like I almost died. Goes, "All right, next time on America's Deadliest Videos."
I thought he was going to say America's Funniest Home Videos.
Right.
And there's going to be a little blooper and the sound effect of you fall like bloop,
bloop, bloop. So yeah, I could see. I like that his family made the little saying, "Not a snowball's chance in a CAT scanner," because Snowball caught fire.
Oh. And they didn't actually say if the guinea pig lived or not.
Right.
So I haven't watched a lot of episodes of Young Sheldon, but that would be very interesting if this was on there.
Oh, it better be. It really. I would be disappointed if it wasn't. Okay, so Leonard calls him into the kitchen. "Can you come talk to me?" And he leaves and says, "Okay, just to prepare." And I appreciate it that he gives her some heads up. The next conversation will be an alternative history of if Lincoln was replaced by a robot from the future in the Civil War and how that would have changed things.
I like that. I think it's kind of fun to have like these hypothetical conversations and everything like that. I think that's a really good choice.
Yeah, I was down for it. I mean, I don't know if the robot aspect would have changed the Civil War much, but hypotheticals they're fun. right?
It reminds me of shoot, was it the hamburger postulate? It was the episode where they were playing when they're at the Cheesecake Factory and they're playing the hypothetical war
Oh,
where it's like Godzilla versus the Hulk versus the
Hindu gods, right?
yeah and everything like that.
Shiva.
It's like this hypothetical game and
Yeah.
everything. It's like, okay, if you threw in Godzilla during the Civil War too, what would have happened?
What happens? Yeah, I like that.
I
Um,
like stuff like that.
and I was curious too. Have you heard of the show that's coming back called Clone High? I made a note of this just because I want to start watching it again.
I know it's a Bill Lawrence show.
Is it? I didn't know that.
Clone High, right? Am I thinking of the same thing as Clone Something? Isn't that Bill Lawrence?
Let's see. Well, Bill Lawrence is a stripper, so no. No, I'm joking.
It's Billy Lawrence.
Yeah, it is. Created
Yeah,
by
because I know
Bill
they
Lawrence.
talk about that at the Scrubs podcast a lot.
Really?
They I mean they mention it and everything like that as like one of like Bill's favorite things. And
But the main character in it is a clone of Abraham Lincoln, and I figured that was worth mentioning because
oh, when's this show coming back?
I think it just came back.
Maybe
on
that could be our
HBO.
mini-sode.
Ooh, I'd do that. When is it coming back? But it originally got canceled because they had a representation, a poor representation of Gandhi in it, and now I guess they're bringing it back, and he's just not going to be a character. Apparently, I don't know how they're going to explain it, but yeah, I've heard it's coming back, and I can't figure out when. But the original season back in like the early 2000s was hilarious. So
Maybe we'll have to check it out. If anybody's interested in that being our mini-sodes, let us know.
we could do that. I mean, he's not a robot, but clone, that's close enough, right?
Yeah.
All right, so they're in the kitchen, and this is where Sheldon mentions, hey, there's even pasta left over. And Leonard asks Sheldon if he realizes this was a date. And Sheldon says he does, or he did, but not. It's not been great because of Leonard's foul mood since he sat down.
Yeah. He's like, Sheldon's like, yeah, I'm aware it's a date. Are you aware?
You?
Because you've been in a foul mood ever since you sat down.
No thanks to you, Leonard. And I do like Leonard says, why did you even sit down if you knew it was a date?
Yeah.
To help, right? And this is where it comes up. If Leonard fails in this relationship, the whole crew loses their risk of having the medical officer their landing party always needed. And he goes into depth that Leonard is basically Kirk, Sheldon is the Spock, Wolowitz is Scotty, Raj is basically a red shirt who gets killed, the guy who gets killed every time, and now they have McCoy. So he turns and waves like Spock, right?
Yeah, I can't do that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, it's a lot of concentration, but I got it.
And I just gave myself a hernia.
T-Rex.
Short. So I like that. I like that comparison because I can see the similarities. I didn't give myself a point. I've given myself a lot of points, but I've always seen myself like Spock over Kirk or Scotty. So
Okay.
yeah.
If you don't know this by now, but Sheldon loves Spock and Leonard Nimoy.
Right. Yeah.
If you don't know that, you will learn.
I feel like we've done a couple hints, but this is the first time he's actually compared himself to it. So something. So we transfer to the movie theater, and Stephanie's talking about giving a guy an x-ray and sees her earring in his chest. And she apparently handled the situation by slipping the other one off and running away.
And I did an IQ point on this one.
Oh, go for it.
Because I was really curious because I'm in the manufacturing world. Granted, I'm working with food, I'm not in medical. But then the first thing I thought was like, why are you even wearing earrings in the surgical room? I did not think that was allowed. I didn't think any jewelry would be allowed.
It shouldn't be, yeah.
But so I did a little bit of research on this. So are earrings or other jewelry allowed in surgery? So short answer is it's case by case by the hospital. Because I was actually doing some research. I actually found some like what's it called? I found some employee manuals that kind of read through, and some of them were a little bit more cryptic than others. But it does seem to be case by case based off the hospital. And this one was noteworthy because this is actually in Seattle, and I'm very familiar. I actually know some people that work at this hospital. It's Swedish in Seattle.
Yeah.
So I found the employee manual for Swedish. So here's what they say in terms of jewelry and earrings. So ears may be exposed to assist with hearing and comfort. So they don't always have to put on their hairnet or cap or anything like that to cover your ears. Okay, so that means earrings might be exposed. But in terms of jewelry themselves, they didn't specifically identify earrings, but they did talk about necklaces, bracelets, and watches, that those must be modest, unobtrusive, clean, and secure. They need to be wipeable, cleanable material, so no leather or cloth, and they need to be secured or strapped and confined in scrub attire. So if we took that and applied it to the hospital that she's at, granted, I didn't find anything on her hospital, she could have worn like small earrings or anything like that, as long as it was kind of like taped back or anything, or just like well secure,
like a little pearl or something,
like studs or something like that. So it does check out that she was technically potentially allowed to wear earrings, which I still find weird. I still think like they really like shouldn't.
And like, as far as I know, like ears are one of the dirtiest places on the human body, and earrings like just build up bacteria. They sit there, sweat and skin cells and bacteria. Like,
I would imagine a lot of people forget to clean them.
Yeah, and I mean, piercings, they get infected even like years after. Like every now and then, I know people who have to take their earrings out because it's like starting to swell up a little bit and get a little inflamed. So it's just a thing. So it seems weird, but I mean, I guess if they're not leaving earrings inside people, I can't complain too much.
Well, yeah, that's my IQ point, case by case. Any doctors out there, let us know what your hospital says.
It's like, my hospital makes us put on bling before we do surgery.
Yeah, we do the shit in style.
We gotta wear 8 pounds of chains around our neck or we're not allowed in.
Get your grill on, put your clock on, get them rings on.
Get your monocle. Alright, so Sheldon comes and sits down and says, I have a bone to pick over your invitation. Apparently it says we're going to the movies. But what movie? What theater? What time? And I love that it took him 20 minutes to look at the browsing history, because that's really like a smart way to go about it. And I don't know if I would have thought about that, but he found it and he was able to locate them pretty easily. So
this must really predate having a cell phone, or just like always having your cell phone, because otherwise he'd be getting like texts like, "Hey, where are you at? What movie are you at?" But then again, Leonard would just ignore it.
That's true. Leave them on unread, but it postdates the time of looking up movie theater times or movie times in newspapers, or calling movie phone. Did you ever have to do that?
Oh my god, that's right.
Oh god, nightmares. I'm having flashbacks. We didn't know
we are that
old. So this brings us into my third IQ point, because Sheldon starts running around looking for the best acoustic sweet spot. And did you do any research on this?
Kind of, but the answer seemed so simple that I was debating if I should call this an IQ point.
Which I ended up doing some other stuff with it to make it kind of fit, but I felt like it was weird to make Sheldon do this because he would know that acoustic spot is the middle of the theater a little bit backwards, right? That you don't need to be looking at sitting on the side of the theater or like up front. Like that's not going to work out for acoustics.
Because the way that the speakers are, no matter where they are, you have to look at the way that they're amplifying and what direction they're going, and then pretty much just go in the middle.
Yeah, trying to be equidistant from where you have to be. But I did look up at some stuff. I looked at, I believe, Cinema Blend claims middle about 2/3 back. Um, if you can't sit there, they recommend moving forward instead of backwards, getting closer to the main speakers. And partially for this is because it uh, won't influence your viewing. Like it'll make the screen bigger, and that's better than being backwards and losing audio quality, having a smaller screen and less audio quality. But the big thing here is that according to people who work at THX and some other stuff I've heard, well, even calibrating my own home theater is you use microphones and place them around the viewing area so that each seat is trying to be the best possible acoustic for that spot. And the notion is the main mic is almost always in the middle, so that's going to be the best. But the other seats are not going to be that bad because of science. Because of science, because of technology and calibration we have these days is able to kind of monitor that and produce audio for where you're sitting. I don't think it'd be that bad, but for perfect, it's kind of known that you'd be in the middle, that's just where it is. And this is where I get into kind of my other stuff with this, that audio quality does vary by movie theater. Audio quality does vary by home theater and by speaker setups, and that home theaters are typically 5.1. Sometimes they're 7.1. Sometimes with Dolby Atmos setups, you can get, I believe, well, you start getting stuff like 9.1 or 9.2.4. So the first one is how many speakers you have like on ground level that are supposed to be placed at ear level wherever you're sitting. And then the next number, 0.1 or 0.2, is the number of subwoofers you have. And the third number is how many height speakers you have, basically how many speakers in the ceiling you have. And usually that's 2 or 4. So a lot of different setups, but what I like to point out is that usually with the 5.1, your side speakers, your surround speakers should be pretty much horizontal with you on the left and right. They can be a little bit behind you, but the number of people who put them completely behind them is not correct. That for typical surround sounds, 5.1, the left and right should be closer to where you're sitting horizontally or parallel or right with you, not
In
perpendicular.
line.
In line with you, yeah. And then if you have a 7.1, those extra two speakers would go behind you. They're called the rear surround. So that's something to keep in mind. But the big thing I wanted to mention here is that I have so much angst about Dolby Atmos right now. That Dolby Atmos is flaunted as this pristine audio stuff. And technically, it's a recording and reproduction format. It is not actual sound quality. So my understanding is that I can watch a movie on HBO that's in Dolby Atmos and then put in a Blu-ray that has Dolby Atmos, and the Blu-ray will sound 100 times better. And people say, well, it's Dolby Atmos. Dolby Atmos is Dolby Atmos. That's not true. A lot of Dolby Atmos on streaming platforms is downgraded into, what are they called? Lossy format, right? Almost like MP3s from the lossless HD format. And a lot of times, even Voodoo, like they assume people don't care about audio, and they don't mind ripping them off saying we have the highest quality audio, Dolby Atmos. It's not the highest quality audio. It is lossy. So yeah, when you think of Dolby Atmos, that just indicates that they're recording it in a way that can help pinpoint sounds in a 3D area. But as far as sound quality goes, it's not going to make the sound quality better. It's not going to improve the bit rate or the sound. And I was reading something the other day where it made me laugh a lot. Somebody who claimed that they were working with Dolby Digital, Dolby Atmos, and was trying to explain the difference between Dolby Atmos and high quality stereo, something like super audio or HD audio. Went into depth about how on a day-to-day basis he places microphones and how cool it is and how this technology is awesome. And it's like a 2 to 3 page discussion. And somebody goes, okay, that's great, but what do you prefer, Dolby Atmos or high quality stereo? And goes, me personally, high quality stereo. And so the point is that even if you have the home theater set up, that most audiophiles will go for the higher quality sound than more speakers and more distribution, because it downplays the quality and it hurts the sound effects and the listening experience. So anyways, that was my little rant for a little bit off topic on acoustic spaces, but I'm really big on audio stuff. So it kind of bummed me out that Sheldon was just wandering around the movie theater, because I don't think he would do that. I think he would know a little bit more about.
I would have expected him to just kind of know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, and this is something that has been weird to me, that usually with home audio, and I think it's usually different with movie theaters, because in movie theaters, the speakers are behind the screen, right? And so you don't notice, but you're supposed to have the speakers like on the same level as the ears of the listener when they're sitting. But for the front speakers, it's best to have them vertical, which means the left and right speakers, usually you see them vertical, but the center one you see horizontal. And that's because usually you can't put it behind the screen, and it will only fit if it's below or above the screen, and there's usually only room to make it horizontal. But apparently, if you look into the discussion behind it, as far as distortion or delivering the audio, if you could make that center speaker vertical and identical to the left and the right, so 3 identical speakers, that is apparently the best listening experience.
Good to know.
Never got to play around with that. I have a horizontal center, but I've read about it, and a lot of people seem to agree. So,
does that mean you're going to start upgrading?
I have to upgrade my projector first, and then I might think about it.
Okay.
My projector is still 1080, and I need to get with that 4K bandwagon, right?
You got to jump on the bandwagon.
So
you don't want to
deprived with my 1080 projector. It's just horrid.
That's so interesting, Ryan.
It's interesting. Projector is what it is. All right, so Leonard apologizes, and Stephanie says, no, it's sweet. And Sheldon apologizes because apparently they already had the perfect spot, like we all knew, because they were in the middle, 2/3 back. But I do appreciate that Sheldon leans in to get the perfect audio sweet spot by invading Leonard's space, right?
Yep, his personal bubble.
And we flash forward to nighttime, and Sheldon is knocking on Leonard's door.
Rewind just a second.
Oh, yeah.
I did that. Well, let's just call it an IQ point, because why the fuck not?
Yeah.
I looked at what movies that they could have been watching.
Oh. We're the host here. We get to decide what's an IQ point. I say IQ point that shit.
It has been IQ'd.
It's been IQ'd.
But as Sheldon was hunting around, which movie, what time, what theater, blah, 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 it got me wondering. I was like, what movie do you think that they went to go watch? So I looked at the top 5 domestic box office movies in November of 2008. So here are the movie options that they could have been watching. Number 1, Madagascar, Escape to Africa. and it grossed 159 million. Number 2, Quantum of Solace. It grossed 141 million. Number 3, Twilight. 119.7 million. Number 4.
Was it the first Twilight?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
That's what it said. Yeah, it just said Twilight. Yeah. Number 4, Bolt. 66.8 million. And number 5, Role Models. 57 million. So those could have been the options. There was a lot of other movies out at the same time, but I wasn't going to list all of them.
That's fair. I'm going to put my money down on Quantum of Solace.
Yeah, if I had to guess, Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
Well, Role Models could have been like a nice, like a rom-com. Well, it's not really a rom-com. It's just more of a comedy.
I don't think I even ever saw Role Models.
I saw it, and it was very forgettable. I remember there was a big LARPing thing in it, but that's about it.
That sounds kind of familiar. Maybe I saw part of it. I remember LARPing. Huh. Yeah, I guess you're right. It's very forgettable. It was very
so forgettable.
So interesting. I forgot it.
Yep. Well, those are the movies that they could have been watching.
Nice.
All right, now we're back outside of Leonard's bedroom.
Okay, nighttime. And Sheldon points out that Stephanie is on Facebook and her status is single, and that she just gifted somebody a digital sheep. And
I tried to throw you a sheep. I don't know if you saw on Facebook, but I poked you.
Oh, I did see the poke.
Yeah, because I was like trying to figure out, I was like, can you still throw sheep at people? So I tried to throw a sheep at you, but I could not figure it out. I think this might be dead.
Was a sheep, did that used to be a thing? Because I don't remember it, and I assumed that maybe they were playing a farming game, and like every now and then you would see somebody was playing a farming game and gave sheep or something, but I wasn't sure.
Well, I looked into it, and it's a variety of poking. So if people aren't on Facebook, you could do what's called poking people. It basically kind of just nudges them, and it just alerts the person that they, I guess for the lack of a better word, they poke you.
Yeah. Hey,
but
I'm thinking of you.
Yeah, but a variety of that was that you used to be able to throw things at people, and a sheep was one of them. But it seems like you can't do that anymore. Because I tried hard to figure it out, and it wouldn't let me.
You know, it's kind of like at the bottom of the Facebook page where when I first started, it said, what was it? The exact saying, we're out of guns, or we're out of missiles, time for guns. And for the longest time, I had no idea what it was. And it's like a quote from Top Gun. And when I just watched the new Top Gun this week.
Me too.
Which it was Star Wars. Like, did you notice it was Star Wars?
That's what everyone says. Like, it's Star Wars.
It was Star Wars. Between Star Wars and I was kind of expecting maybe some Stranger Things footage from them being in Russia, but although they never say Russia, but it's a snowy place with evergreen trees and advanced technology, so I'm gonna say Russia. But anyways, they say that word or that line in there again. They say we're out of missiles, time for guns. And I'm like, hey, I remember that from being from Facebook, and apparently it's in the first Top Gun.
I don't think I've ever seen that on Facebook. You just said it's on the bottom. It's just a line on the bottom of it. Is it still there?
No, they took that out like 10 years ago or more.
Oh,
like when they actually realized Facebook was going to be a thing. Like I think at first they're like, "Fuck this, we can do whatever we want with it." And they're like, "Oh shit, people are using it."
Yeah, we better be more PC.
Out of missiles, I'm switching to guns, and I don't know when they took it off, but it used to be there back in like the. I don't know, when did Facebook start? Like 2004? Back in the day when you had to have a college email to use it. And...
Yeah. I think it was around that time. That was around the time that where all my friends were signing up. I was still on MySpace.
You know what? No, I was in the dorms when I signed up, so it must have been like 2003.
I remember not thinking it was going to go anywhere. So I had a friend not in college that wanted to join it. So I gave him my email for him to use.
And he was the first time I met Rob.
Yeah.
And now you're nothing like him. You can never
Yep.
live up to the real Rob. All right, so apparently, Facebook has gone through some stages in its life, and a sheep was apparently one of them. Yes.
Yeah.
So was Top Gun. So Leonard says it's just a Facebook page. Sheldon thinks they're losing, not just Leonard's losing her, but they're losing her. And Leonard mentions Sheldon is not in the relationship, so he probably shouldn't care that much. And Sheldon says Leonard's unfit and relieves him of duty according to General Order 104, Section A. And I did a little research into this. Did you?
I did. So I'm a little curious. I found something interesting, but I want to hear what you have to say first. I'll let you go.
So what I got, according to memoryalpha.fandom.com and a few other quote sections too, I could not find an actual General Order 104 Section A. I found a Starfleet Order 104 Section B and a Starfleet Order 104 Section C, but not General Order Section A. Or I couldn't even find a Starfleet Order Section A. It was just Section B and Section C. And technically, they do connect to relieving somebody of their duty. Section B, paragraph A, was the absence of a starship's assigned captain. In the absence of a captain, a flag officer had the authority to assume command of the starship should they have deemed it necessary. And Section C says, should it be proven with admissible evidence that the flag officer who had assumed command was medically or psychologically unfit for command, the starship's ranking officer could relieve them of that basis. However, such an action was required to be supported by an appropriate certification of unfitness by the ship's chief medical officer or other clear evidence or other audit behavior.
I was going to say, if it's the chief medical officer, that's Stephanie.
Oh. I see what you did there.
Yeah. Yeah, I found the exact same thing. I couldn't find this exact general order. And based off the one that it's closest to, General Order 104, Section B, that would be in the absence of an assigned captain. But he's technically present, so he couldn't apply that one. So it's more towards the one that you mentioned, Starfleet Order 104, Section C. But Stephanie ain't gonna sign off on that.
Seriously. Yeah, no, I don't think she would.
Yeah, so if there's any Star Trek fans out there that actually shed some light on this, feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear some more.
And maybe general orders are the same thing as Starfleet orders, but I kind of got the impression that they are technically different orders. But yeah, could not find anything about a Section A in there either.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on. Leonard says it doesn't really apply to the situation because it's not Star Trek.
Yeah.
They are living life, right?
They are in reality.
They're in reality. I like that because he had me going because he usually does play along with stuff like that. And this time he's like, no.
Yeah, shut it down.
Shut it down. We're at Penny's house and Sheldon brings banana bread because that's a precursor to a chat. Usually you bring a gift and you're invited into chat.
I did no IQ point because that's just true.
That's true.
You show up to someone's house, you bring something, whether it's a dinner party or if you're just gonna talk.
Condoms.
Sex life.
Sex life.
Ryan, we need to talk about your sex life.
Talk about anybody's sex life but ours.
And how interesting it is.
It's very interesting. So interesting we can't talk about it. So interesting. I was surprised that Sheldon knows how to bake, and it looks like it was something he did bake himself, right?
I noticed that too, because it was wrapped in saran wrap and everything like that. So it did seem like he baked it himself.
Yeah. I could see
which makes
but
I was gonna say it makes more sense that he's more of a baker than a cook because baking is more of a science.
Ooh, that's a good point. The chemistry behind it, yeah.
And it's exact measurements. of ingredients. You can't really wing it. You can't just wing how much like baking soda you put in there, or how much flour or how much sugar and stuff like that. Vanilla, like you have to have specific proportions for it to be a good product.
And like it doesn't even work to just double all the time, because if you double, it could
No.
screw something up too. Like there's
Yeah.
ratios that have to be followed. So
Yeah.
that makes sense.
So it seems like Sheldon would be a baker if you had to give it to him.
But
If you had to label him as something.
I saw, or thinking back to his mom coming on the show, I could see her being a baker too, and instilling some of those skills into him, because she's kind of a down to earth Texas mother, right?
And we did have a great IQ point about the uses of lard in baked goods.
That's
so
true.
Find that episode.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
Luminous Fish, I believe, because that was the first episode where she popped in.
Yeah, she's only been on like one episode, right? She's been mentioned and they've called her, but
is there really only one?
I think so.
Oh,
it's sad because she's such a character.
Well, we'll see her again.
Oh. And his sister's
no spoilers, but we'll see her again.
Her dead body. Dun dun dun. Oh shit!
Violent crime.
So Sheldon walks in and asks if Penny has been robbed. She says no, and he asks how would she know, because the place is so messy. Which goes back to an older episode where he doesn't he try to pick up for her.
He cleans he cleans her apartment in episode 2.
Episode 2. I'm like, that was one of the very first ones, right?
Big brand hypothesis. Like, yeah, they ended up having it's a big brand day.
Big brand. It's a big brand day. So Sheldon is afraid Leonard is ruining the relationship. So he wants to know, what did Leonard do to lose Penny? Says she can provide any shortcomings, including those in the bedroom. And again, where you're on this notion that it's acceptable to talk to a person about their sex life, but not if the person's outside the room, apparently. I mean, I don't understand these rules, but yeah, apparently she's not too interested in talking.
You can do it if you bring banana bread.
Oh, there.
Or apparently not, because she didn't actually answer his question. Well, so maybe he should have brought a little bit of coffee too.
She says they never actually got to the bedroom.
So that's right.
There's nothing to talk about, right? Yeah. So he asks why, and she compares her relationship to the Lake House movie with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock.
Yep.
And this was a laugh out loud moment for me. In fact, it builds the relationship some, because Sheldon says, you made me watch it. Do you have to mock me with it?
And I love that too. It's a little line that speaks volumes of their relationship and friendship.
I would have loved to have seen how she forced him to watch the Lake House, of all things, right? And I'm sure she managed, but I just, like, was it a friend's night, or like she just popped in and said, everybody, we're watching this, or did they take a vote on going to the movie?
I mean, she did that with America's Next Top Model.
That's true.
She kind of just barged in and just turned it on. And if they're there, it's like, I guess we're not going anywhere. I guess we're watching this in the background.
Yeah. And literally forces them to watch it. But then most of them got on board with it, except Sheldon. So,
Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, I like it. You have to mock me with it too. So we flash forward to the cafeteria where Raj and Howard are eating, and Sheldon sits down and asks them about relationships. And Raj looks at Howard and says, I thought you were going to have the talk with him. And I like Howard's reaction. I'm still waiting for somebody to have the talk with me, right? Which kind of explains a lot.
Yeah, actually, now that we're talking about, and now that you bring it up, like, it actually says a lot about Howard. I don't want to go into spoiler territory, but like, you know, like, it kind of says, it's hinting about the future plot point that his father isn't around.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, he's never mentioned a father. He's mentioned his mom a lot, and we hear him talking in the background, but there is no father there. And I don't think his mom was the best role model in teaching him what's appropriate or inappropriate in regards to relationships.
Well, yeah. I don't want to, like I said, I want to get into spoilers, but I think all the other fans out there that have watched the entire series, there is an episode that revolves around the identity of his father, and it actually does like it's one of the very few tearjerker moments of the series.
Oh,
So just to kind of like foreshadow it for you a little bit, something to build up towards. I still watch that episode, and it gives you some feels. Like, you don't get that a lot with this shows, but like there are some heartfelt moments, and that part with about Howard's dad it's there.
swear, if I watch it and I say, man, I felt nothing, Rob. It was stupid. We're gonna like end this podcast. We're gonna be like, Ryan, we're not friends anymore.
Ryan, you're so interesting.
You're so interesting.
I'm sure you'll feel something. You're human, right? Or are you a Sheldon? You're really just that body is the exoskeleton of your true species.
This is where I just eat a bunch of Thai food and then split into two.
Yep.
That's how I reproduce. Okay, so Sheldon wants to keep Leonard and Stephanie together, and Howard says he doesn't think it's possible. And they say, look at the track record. And I love Howard and Raj's jumping back and forth here. They bring up Joyce Kim, who defected to North Korea after 27 days, which I don't think we ever got a time limit. I thought it was a long-term relationship. But they say 27 days, and she went to
27
North
days.
Korea. That's not very long. And then
No.
two booty calls with Winkle, in which Winkle has nicknamed him Speed of Light Leonard. So
so sad.
I didn't get that impression when they were dating before, but I could see it now.
I know. It seemed like he got her where she needed to go.
Yeah. Or he got where he needed to go, and then
I know.
called the door.
And she was just along for the ride.
Oh, all right then. Well, good for you, little buddy.
Yeah.
And then the 3-hour dinner with Penny, which should have been shorter if they'd ordered the souffle when they sat down. And honestly, for one dinner, I think 2.5, 3 hours is still pretty good for a first date. So I don't think that's
unless they're counting the commute time, because they drove together, and yeah, because he picked her up. They went to the Chinese restaurant first, where they rented to Sheldon, and they bounced. So if they're counting all of that commute time, and then they actually got Pinkberry afterwards too.
Yeah, man.
So if you think about it, 3 hours is actually not that long for all of that.
I'm taking it as a 3-hour dinner. Like the actual dinner took 3 hours. Because I mean, what type of dinner? If you order a souffle, that's a certain type of restaurant, and you expect certain weights, right? That's pretty fancy. You don't get souffles.
Places with the souffle will usually have like a disclaimer on the menu that says you need to wait like 45 minutes, so order ahead.
Just a little random tidbit is I went on a cruise just a couple weeks ago, and one of my favorite parts of cruising, at least this cruise line, was they regularly had souffles, and they got rid of it from their menus. And I think that was one of the most disappointing things in my life, is not being able to get the souffles on those cruises anymore.
Your life is at an all-time low.
It's an interesting low, if you ask me. It's just...
Oh shit! That could be the weekly thing. Is like we could actually just cook some. Do we want to turn this into a cooking podcast where we'll cook a brisket, we'll cook a souffle?
I'm down. But from what I hear, souffles are really fucking hard to make. Like they have to be like just right with humidity, right? Like if it's raining, you can ruin it.
I've actually never tried it. I remember my brother he took French in high school, and one of the extra credit activities was to like cook a French meal and everything like that. So I remember he had to do the souffle, and I remember it was like that classic sitcom moment where it comes out of the oven and then you put the topper on and it just sinks down. I was like, but I've never tried it. I should.
I remember there was a previous episode where I talked about my adventures on a cruise ship playing Bubblegum. I'm not going to say any more than that, but I remember the girls that I was playing bubblegum with mentioned that their dad, actually they were friends. So one of their dads mentioned at a dinner with the souffle, I was eating souffle, because a good souffle is like good sex, and just stop there. And I'm willing to agree with him. A good souffle is fucking phenomenal. I love them.
Period.
Period. It's like good sex.
Yeah.
Enough said.
End of story. So how's your day going? Anything new exciting happening?
Had a few souffles in bed, if you ask me. Wait, what?
George Costanza, that shit.
I'm surprised you haven't had a souffle. Man, they are...
No, I've had them. I've never made it.
Oh, you've never made it? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
I've had it. Yeah,
I thought you were
they are.
saying
They're. Oh yeah.
my
I've never tried making it, so I know it's very technical.
Aunts are really into baking, and they say souffles and meringue are just bitches to make. And I don't know. I don't bake that much. I smoke. I'm a smoker. That's what I do.
They should have Sheldon do that since he's a baker.
Seriously.
He's got banana bread. He's got zucchini bread on the way.
I love both banana and zucchini bread. In fact, I had, I don't even know where it was, somewhere in Seattle. They had chocolate chip banana bread I had the other day. It was fantastic. Oh, man. Not as good as a souffle, but I'm gonna put it up there.
Ooh.
You know, it's like it's not as good as sex, but it's a good night by yourself, if you know what I mean.
Is it though? Do we need to have the talk?
What's the talk about?
Souffles.
Souffles.
Wink, wink.
Ryan, we're gonna have to talk about souffles and banana bread today.
Yeah.
Oh no. Hey, so yeah, I say that's a good time for dinner. Howard claims Stephanie should have lasted 20 minutes by the record, and you know, I have to imagine Leonard's gone on other dates or dated other people, but I think it's interesting that they make it seem like these are his actual love life in the past like 10 years have been Joyce Kim, Winkle, and Penny.
Yeah, because I guess if we're starting it at the beginning of the series, it was just Joyce Kim.
And
Joyce Kim was his only history.
Only history, yeah. And we don't even know how far back in the past she was.
Yeah, we don't.
So, Sheldon's still asking what's the best way to keep them together, and we get a point again. In fact, I've given a point to Raj for this before, but I'm going to do it again because he says we could go ahead and kill every other man on Earth. And
logical.
I appreciate his thinking outside the box. Raj thinking outside.
You must eliminate all competition.
Eliminate all competition for Leonard. I do appreciate Raj's thoughtfulness. All right, so Howard says not to use the body spray from the commercials. It doesn't work at all. That made me laugh really hard. And he adds that even if you add more, it doesn't help.
Well, if it doesn't work the first spritz, obviously you need to add more.
And the thing is, I'm really big on scents. I love soaps. I love colognes, but I'm also like very, very what's the word? Sensitive to them. Like both like can get, if it's too strong or it has certain scents in it, it can give me a headache very quickly. If I spray certain stuff directly on my skin, I break out. Like I didn't even realize that happened. One time I went out on like a date. I'm like, wow, look at that. My arm is a rash. That's cool. It wasn't cool. That was sarcastic.
And the date ended very abruptly. No matter how great the conversation was.
I had long sleeves. You know, you roll them back down and pretend. Yeah. So yeah, Axe body spray has, well, I'm not going to name names, although I just did. The body sprays from the commercials have always smelled like garbage to me. I've never been able to use them, and the guys who like spray on a whole bottle before going to a club or something make me want to puke. I like just like a little bit of something that like you smell and you have to wonder if it's even there. It's there and gone, and it's like, wow.
I was I was Howard.
You were Howard.
I
Oh no,
sprayed that shit in my early 20s when I was at the club. I was like, yeah, chicks are gonna love this.
Out of that one, here's a new one.
I do remember I really liked the chocolate scented one. That was actually, it did smell like chocolate, and it was like, okay, chicks are gonna love this.
That reminds me of, my dad used to order shit from Avon, and I used to play trumpet in elementary school, and one of the things he got from Avon were like flavored chapsticks, and one of them was chocolate flavored, and it was also brown. And so like I'd play trumpet, I'm like, oh, chocolate, this is good, and I'd put it on like overly because I like the chocolate taste and scent. But it like stained my lips brown, so it looked like I was eating shit or something. I'm like, this is really awkward. So I've always been dubious of chocolate scented or flavored stuff since then. It's a lesson I learned in fourth grade. Thank you, Avon. Okay. So we're back at Penny's, and Sheldon has the zucchini bread now and asks if he can come in. She says no.
I like how he does like the 3 knocks, and then he gets cut off on the third one, but he still has to finish.
Yeah, he just keeps going. And, yeah, actually, I noticed that, and I wondered what it was. I thought he just felt awkward, but you're right. He had to finish it, right?
Yep.
Interesting. That was interesting. She says no, and he apologizes if he crossed a line earlier. And she goes, thank you. I appreciate that. And then he asks her about her menstrual cycle. And we get another point of me being like Sheldon, because I am great at going from, I'm so sorry for crossing a line, and then saying something else shitty right afterwards. We're crossing a line, but then asking about menstrual cycle. Right.
Well, I actually did an IQ point on this.
On menstrual cycles?
Kind of.
Actually, I did too. I was just fucking with you.
Oh.
All right, go first.
Well, Sheldon mentioned that in female primates, apes, and Penny, they find their mate more desirable when being courted by another female. And the effect is intensified when the rival female is secreting the pheromones associated with ovulation. So the answer is yes, it's true. So I found this on, I found multiple parts of this. So, sorry. The first part is when that males are found more desirable when they're being courted by another person. So I found this on independent.co.uk. And yeah, just in a nutshell, it's true. I didn't do a lot of research on that because it's just straight up true. And I've heard this called pre-selection. That's when one person is with another person, they pretty much have, in quote, vetted them, and that's what makes them desirable.
They seem safer, more like a better choice because somebody is there to vouch for them, right?
Yep. Somebody has pretty much already done the research that they're not a psycho, that they're not interesting, that they are
they're not interesting at all. They're wonderful.
Yeah, they're great. Not a sociopath.
And I didn't find anything. I don't want to interrupt too much, but I have to wonder if it's a grass is greener type thing too. If somebody is off the market, if psychologically it's like, oh, I wish I could have that because it's what I don't have and can't have. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be it too.
And I feel like that's undermining it. I think it's a pretty deep psychological study, but it is interesting that I think it works both ways too. That guys see girls to some extent, and oh, I wish I could have Jesse's girl type thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, okay. So go ahead.
Well, if you want to witness this, watch any reality show.
Oh,
Yep. I'm
wait,
witnessing this phenomenon right now in Vanderpump Rules. And yes, I love that shit.
you told me to watch Love Is Blind, right?
You should definitely watch Love Is Blind.
I tried, and like it just started like I watched the first episode of like the newest season, and they acted like I should know who the people were, and I got confused.
Yeah, this last season was very jerky.
Okay. I'm like, I like
really
a little
just
intro or lead up or something, but it's just like you're in there and they're talking, and I'm like, did I skip an episode?
Yeah,
Because
this was not the best season, and I heard and I fully agree with this. If anybody want, maybe this could be a mini-sode. But it's host. If nobody watches this, it's hosted by Nick Lachey and Vanessa Lachey. Now, I guess I forgot what her surname was or her maiden name, but Vanessa something. But like they got ripped apart because they are actually terrible hosts.
they
So they're fucking terrible.
they did
Every
another one
season,
too, though.
yeah, they produce another show too.
The Ultimatum.
Yeah,
And I did watch that one because it was the people seemed very toxic and abusive, and like it was actually like watching it like this is you. I don't like this, but like you have to keep watching it because
you want to watch a train wreck.
it was a train wreck. Yeah.
But yeah, this last season of Love Is Blind, not the best. And it just kind of solidifies what terrible hosts Nick and Vanessa are. Like when you do, like when you watch the recap of it all, it's like they're so biased in all their questions and everything like that. It's like, dude, if you're going to moderate a conversation, you need to be unbiased.
It's like, well, I thought you were a piece of shit, but what did you think of this lady? Like, what?
Yeah.
You were a very interesting piece of shit. Like, what?
How could you do that, you piece of shit?
Nick, I feel like you're a little biased here.
Schmidge. But anyways, back to the IQ point. Sorry, we had a little... I know a lot of people hate reality shows, but they're actually so addicting.
They're popular for a reason. I hate them, but
Yeah.
I love them, and there's something there. So I'm not going to make fun of them too much.
Yeah. Well, the first part of this IQ point is correct, and now on to the second one, the secreting pheromones.
The secretion.
And I found this on QZ.com. It was an article in 2016 that highlighted a study of this conducted in 2014, that women instinctively guard their sexual partners from other women who are ovulating. So they found a study that actually confirmed this. So in this research, a team conducted 4 studies with a total of 478 heterosexual engaged or married women. All participants were recruited from Amazon Mechanical Turk, a crowdsourcing online marketplace. In each study, the women were shown photographs of a series of women and were asked how willing they would be on a 7-point scale for the women to befriend their partner. And participants were significantly more likely to want to create distance between the photographed women and their partner when the woman shown in the photograph was ovulating.
Wait, just on photographs. This isn't even like pheromones or anything. This is photographs.
This is just photographs.
Wow.
And that leads into the question of how did they even know that they're ovulating?
Yeah.
So, the women were not told which women in the photos were ovulating, and in all likelihood, they didn't even consciously consider the idea. But humans apparently seem to have a subconscious awareness of various physical cues that indicate when women are more fertile, as found in several studies. So research across species demonstrates that social perceptions, cognitions, and behaviors do temporarily shift in response to ovulation, and that these shifts may enhance individuals' reproductive fitness. Besides creating physical distance, the authors note that women employ other tactics designed to keep their partners close. Specifically, women with desirable partners reported that they would show increased sexual interest in their partners after viewing a high fertility target, regardless of how attractive the target was. The article didn't dive into the explanation of this, but I'm guessing that we're biologically programmed to breed. So if a male knows a rival female is ovulating, they're more inclined to hop onto that partner.
Huh.
But it's really interesting how people can just see the social or the physical cues of a person and they'll just subconsciously know that they're fertile. That's kind of what it's getting at. I know it's a lot to take in on this research.
Well, you can cut this out later, but I'm like wondering, like, is it like these photos have the women like one of them in sweats and has like a jar of Ben and Jerry's, and it's obviously she's not feeling very well, and she's just taking a day to herself, and then the other one's like a girl like I don't know, ballerina dancing or something, like very active.
Yeah, it did not go into what the photos were. It just said photographs of other women.
Because those are two completely different ends of the goddamn scale.
But in a nutshell, like I guess to sum it back up, the answer is true that people, when they're ovulating, their partners are more guarded.
I've noticed that look in your eye, Rob.
Yep.
Yeah,
that time of the month
just
for
from
me.
your picture on the screen, I know what I know what you're doing down there. You're making some fleshy fruit.
Seeds and all.
Seeds and all.
Multiple ovaries.
I got some strawberries ready for you. Whoa. So I actually I got some information that like agrees and some that actually kind of disagrees, I think, but it was kind of above my head. So one of them was from magazine Scientific Reports and a research study from Oklahoma State, agreeing, like you said, that women do like men who are taken. That we've seen that. Oh, that's what it was. The first one was a study where women were shown pictures of men and they rated them. And then they were told the ratings other women had of the men, and they re-rated them, and like up and down the board, they rated the men more highly if the men were rated more highly by other women.
Interesting.
So like a social thing that if the majority of people think you're interesting, then they will all start thinking you're interesting.
This kind of reminds me of that psychological study about about like compliance.
Yeah,
a little bit, where it was like if everyone is in a room and they're asked like a question, and then if 9 out of 10 people purposely give like the wrong answer, that 10th person is like a sheep, and they'll follow like, oh yeah, that's totally it. It's almost like the same thing where it's like, if other people think this, I'm just going to think it must be.
I've got to think it too. Yeah. I think that's absolutely definitely part of it. It's weird. The other one was that, like you said, that a study showed that women were more interested in men when they believed he was taken, that they were ranking them, as I understood, ranking them more highly as soon as they heard, oh, he has a girlfriend or he's in a relationship, and then suddenly the numbers went up. Like, I want to say it went from like a 59% approval rating to like 90%, like up significantly of people like, oh yeah, he's more attractive.
Yeah, because when people find out that you're single, the first question is like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Or when they're setting someone up and they're like, oh, this person's perfect for you. And they're like, well, then why are they single? There must be something wrong with them.
I mean, I know there's something wrong with me, so what's wrong with them?
Yeah.
So the other thing I found was that was the part that agreed with you, but according to adaptive human behavior and physiology, I found a couple quotes, and I just wanted to read them and see where we get with them. Although female sexual behavior is not limited to a specific phase of the menstrual cycle, changes in body morphology and in behavior and psychology, for example, in feeding, risk-taking, and mood, can occur across the cycle. So basically, I took that to understand that this study was saying that the menstrual cycle was not necessarily influencing female sexuality, but other facets like mood, risk taking, how diet can all be influenced by different stages of the menstrual cycle. And this concurs with the second part. A full understanding of female sexuality in humans therefore requires knowledge of culture biology interactions. Um, so my understanding is that female sexuality is a lot more complicated than just, oh, do they want to have sex, or do they think the guy's attractive, or if a guy thinks they're attractive, that it's based on how does a guy fit in with society, how is he fitting in with his kids if he has any, or if he has friends, if he has a job, if he's capable, competent. And this actually goes into the next one too, where Sheldon talks about alpha males, the fact that human interaction and society cannot be simplified as easy as saying there's an alpha male, that there's one guy who's on top of everything at all times, and that female sexuality is kind of the same thing, that things will change depending on what they're going through in life, depending, on their brain physiology, and depending on what they're looking at and what they understand they're looking at in a mate. But again, I wasn't sure I was completely understanding those phrases. So, they kind of go against, well, they kind of support yours, not necessarily that the menstruation impacts it, but that there's so many things that correlate with menstruation that it does seem like it does. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
Sort of. It's basically all.
I'm not drifting out. I'm paying attention because this is interesting.
This is very interesting, Ryan. Keep going. Basically, human interaction is very, very complicated, and that trying to
simplify it,
isolate it to one thing it's impossible, it's unfair, and incorrect. But again, it seemed like more studies really need to be done because we don't completely understand sexuality completely. So
maybe you don't.
I know that look in your eye, Rob, and I know what time of the month it is.
You need this. You need this look.
Yeah, that look. That's the look. I know that look. Okay, so interesting stuff. Penny closes the door and he goes, "Oh, so she's 14, or he's 14 days too early."
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty bold. Yeah. And I love the scene. We flash back into the apartment, and Leonard is talking about if they can find a cure for what was it?
Was it malaria?
Malaria, that's what it was. I didn't write it down. Malaria. Yeah. They should be able to do something about lactose intolerance. And she goes,
you had some cheese, you farted. Yeah, she thought it was cute.
I thought it was cute.
And like that's where, yeah, and that's where she's a keeper again, to be able to fart in front of someone that early in the relationship.
I'm giving 1 point for being like Leonard here, not being able to let an embarrassing moment go. I could see myself trying to justify it like he did. I can't say I've ever had cheese dipped and farted, but I could see me saying, why can't we do something about gas if we can cure all these other diseases? So, but she does seem like a keeper there, and she seems very sweet, which totally seemed off from what I was thinking about her in the previous episode, where she was making out with Leonard on the first date. So it was kind of a pleasant surprise to see she has a deeper, more charming character than what I thought she was. So Sheldon walks out and says hello. Leonard asks if Stephanie wants more wine. She says yes, because she's not going to be driving anywhere. And Sheldon starts groaning in the kitchen, and he has a can of white asparagus. He has a craving for white asparagus that will surely just go unsatisfied.
Said no one ever.
Said no one. And
nobody has a craving for white asparagus.
I don't know if I've ever had white asparagus.
I've never had it jarred, so I thought that was really weird that it was pickled. Like, I've never seen pickled white asparagus.
I've had
asparagus.
Is there a difference between pickled?
The white asparagus is different from the green, like the normal traditional asparagus that you've seen. I forgot it. I'm blanking on exactly how it's grown. It's like one is grown in the shade and the other is like grown in like sunlight or something. It's something very unique, but they are very different. The flavor profiles are different and the textures are completely different. Wow, white asparagus is a lot rarer. You don't really see that very often, but when you do get it fresh, it's definitely a lot airier and a lot crunchier.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Another food we're going to have to try in the miniseries.
Yeah.
Just 20 minutes of us eating pickled white asparagus.
Yeah. I guess I am bringing back my mukbang channel.
Who would have thought it?
Yeah. So, and here we are, full circle.
Full circle. Sheldon explains to Leonard that he's helping Leonard demonstrate himself as the alpha male by letting him open the jar, and says that females witness an exhibition of physical domination. When a female does, she produces oxytocin. If they make love, her biochemistry will produce a sensation of falling in love. And I kind of had a problem with this. Did you do any research on this one?
I did do a research on this.
You want me to try to go first, or
yeah?
Okay,
after you.
First of all, I know from a really witty little video by College Humor from their series Adam Ruins Everything, of him discussing there is no such thing as alpha male, that basically depending on the context and the situation a person is placed in, they can feel more secure and more of a leader. And the notion is the person who came up with the theory of alpha male was watching wolves behave, and later on came to redact his statements and suggest that the wolves he was watching were actually parents defending their children. So it wasn't an alpha male, it was a wolf who was being a father, which is completely different than our sensation or our ideology or understanding of this ultimate male who just needs to procreate and is the best thing in daylight. So yeah, technically opening a can would not necessarily make somebody think alpha male, because alpha male is not necessarily, like, it changes. I guess if somebody was watching a sport of you opening jars and you won first place, that could be, but in this case it's not going to happen.
I'd watch that.
Right?
Opening jar competition.
Open asparagus.
How fast can you open it?
And for our next challenge, we have pickled eggs. Oh, it seems like he's struggling with the jar. Oh, his fingers can't fit over the rim. And so I went from there to the discussion of oxytocin, because my understanding of oxytocin was different than what Sheldon was saying as well, that oxytocin is not necessarily he made it sound like if he opened the jar, she'd have the oxytocin
and it would almost like release it or produce it.
Yeah, so that she would want to procreate and fall in love. But from a couple different websites, including Cleveland Clinic, what we get is 4 different brain chemicals. Endorphin, which we can just completely cut out of the mix right away. Pleasure after discomfort is what I have in my notes, that basically when you get hurt, your body produces endorphins to kind of amp you back up and make you feel better. And what I have in here, oh yeah, I put in the notes. Maybe this is what S&M is like. You get spanked a little bit and it feels kind of good. Pleasure pain threshold. Um, Serotonin is the emotion stabilizer. This is what antidepressants mainly go after. They try to keep serotonin in the brain and working as much as possible. So technically, this keeps your mood good, keeps you positive, optimistic. But then we get dopamine, and I feel like dopamine and oxytocin get confused the most. Dopamine's the instant gratification, the reward chemical, what you feel when you're motivated, like shit, we're doing a good job. Or I'm guessing when you're on a date and you feel like the date's going good, and you're like, wow, this is really exciting. It's kind of similar to bungee jumping or skydiving or something. And oxytocin, I always remember as the love drug. That this is not the uh, love at first sight. This is the long term one, and you find over and over again that it stimulates and it corresponds with giving birth, uterine contractions and lactation, and that when a woman gives birth, she releases a lot of oxytocin, and it usually, can't say always, creates a strong bond with the child. And you find these in how they're forms of pleasure from connection, intimacy, soft touch, feeling comforted, feeling secure and safe. And it really builds up that bond between two people. And this did say that it can correlate with sexual arousal, but some other things: recognition, trust, romantic attachment, parent infant bonding. And that to me seems so far from what Sheldon's saying of her seeing a strong man be strong and then having sex. Seemed a little incongruent. Maybe there is some connection, but I felt like that's not exactly how I understand these drugs. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I found the exact same thing. I didn't think that he was using that correctly either, based off like what oxytocin is and how it's released into your throughout your body
Mm-hmm.
and everything like that. I don't think he used that correctly. And it got me wondering how if if visualizing an alpha male or a physical dominance, if that doesn't release the oxytocin, well, what does? And there, I did look up what the triggers are.
A dairy milking machine.
Softs.
That's what everything I saw was like: lactation, milking, lactation. I'm like, I feel like this drug is more than just milk, but whatever.
Yeah. But for the most part, the things that trigger an oxytocin release are positive physical contact, so cuddling, kissing, hugging, holding hands, social bonding, talking, making eye contact, laughing, sex, breastfeeding, and childbirth. So watching something happening doesn't necessarily release oxytocin.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't find anything to support that the witnessing of a male dominance would produce oxytocin.
But that connection Sheldon had with Stephanie, because she did her internship where he was born and went for radiation burns, that might have...
That would have, because
Yeah.
it's social bonding.
Social bonding.
Yeah.
Interesting.
See if I found it. Yeah. Yeah, so I think the idea that Stephanie would be more attractive to Leonard off him opening the jar, that's more of a social thing rather than a biological thing.
What about the fart?
Biological.
I'm thinking there
She
might...
wants him now.
Oh, yeah.
Fart in front of your girl, she's a keeper.
If you want some oxytocin, you just gotta let them rip.
Yeah. You produce oxytocin by releasing gas.
Studies have shown a lot of gas equals a lot of oxytocin. We never knew. Okay, so Leonard considers this, but then he asks if it would work if he just went ahead and punched Sheldon in the face.
Yep.
And he goes, yes, it would.
But let's start with the jar.
And he goes, okay, so I already got it loosened for you. And Leonard still can't open it. Stephanie asks if she can help. And I love that. Can I help? Sheldon says he's come to peace with his role as a beta male, and I do like that. He's just like perfectly like, oh, woe is me, I'm a beta male. That happens. And then
he's putting on a really good show.
He's putting on a good show as far as Sheldon goes, right? It's a Sheldon show. Leonard breaks the glass and gets cut, which I like that turn of events. And Stephanie ends up saying that he needs stitches. And he goes, oh, with like a needle? And then he goes and throws up. And Sheldon says, FYI, I had a steak thawing in there. That actually made me laugh.
The warm vomit will help thaw it out even more.
Hopefully it's
covered in plastic.
And wrapped.
Well, if anybody is interested, I did do a little bit of research on the best way to open up a stuck jar.
Oh, yeah.
So, for all the men or women out there that are trying to impress their significant other and you need to open up a jar, here's how you do it without embarrassing yourself. So, I found this on thegreatest.com. So, number 1, run the jar under warm water. This will help the lid expand and loosen. So, you should be able to just pop it open. Number 2, use a butter knife. Place the jar on a stable surface and insert the knife into the small gap between the jar and the lid and twist. But careful not to cut yourself.
I've done that.
You stuck it under and then
just cut myself.
You beta male.
I'm a beta male.
Number 3, do what Leonard did and give it a little love tap, a little bang. And then this one kind of confused me, but it was number 4 is try a shoe. Place the jar upside down in a shoe. Grab the shoe tongue so you're gripping the shoe jar. So you're gripping the shoe and the jar. Lift the shoe about 9 to 12 inches off the floor and then quickly push back down. Chances are this will break the seal. Now take the jar back out and try twisting off the lid. So I was having a really hard time, like, why would anybody do this? And I guess I kind of get it, but like, really? I don't know how many people have actually tried this.
I feel like I need to watch a video of this. This seems confusing.
Well, like I said, I was having a really hard time picture this, but I found another website, and they called this the water hammer method. Pretty much you're flipping the jar upside down and whacking the bottom of it. And that is supposed to raise the pressure inside the jar to break the seal. And then you're basically using the shoe as like kind of like a dampening thing. It's like when you smack it, so it's not on the hard surface. Yeah.
I was going to say, were these ways to open up jars sponsored by Nike or Adidas?
Reebok, it's coming back.
Not just good for the feet. We can help with jars.
Number 5, get a grip. So get a better grip by using plastic wrap, a rubber band, or an oven mitt, which I actually had to do just the other day. Number 6, pop the seal with a spoon. Pretty much the same thing as number 2 with the butter knife. You take the spoon, insert it in the lid, and you kind of just force it open.
Less of a chance of getting cut, though.
Yep. And number 7, get help. Boo. Don't like that one.
Well, for a beta male like me, I'm okay with it.
When I was working in restaurants a lot and I had to open up things like really speedy, what we used to do is we used to just take a knife and then just cut a hole at the top of it. You basically just take like the sharp part of like the knife and kind of just pop a hole in the lid. And then that is what releases the pressure. Oh. And then you just twist it off. So you could do that as long as you have knives that you don't care about. And also as long as you have a different vessel to put your ingredients in.
After you open it, because that lid's not going to work.
Yeah, that lid's not going to do so well anymore. All right, but that's how you open up a jar.
I want to see the shoe one now.
Yeah.
But you can only do it with the Reebok.
Only Reebok only.
Everything else sucks. All right.
Nike is just gonna explode.
You're gonna make that lid go back on. Is what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
All right, so they're at the hospital. It's post-op. Sheldon says to Stephanie, she did a great job, and it's not going to scar. Stephanie asks how her big crybaby is, and Leonard says, "Are you still going to stay the night?" I like after he's being emasculated by crying, throwing up, and everybody talking about this. She goes, "I think you'll need your rest." And as what does he say? Sheldon says, as long as Leonard's vomiting, coitus is contraindicated. Right? So basically, while Leonard's vomiting, it's not going to happen. It's not
gonna happen.
That oxytocin's not going to be there like it should be.
Yeah.
Sheldon says he can't understand why women have such a hard time.
He says, "You seem like a perfectly pleasant person. I just can't understand why women have such a hard time loving you."
Yeah, I put Sheldon says it about himself, but that's not true. So I messed up with him. But to Leonard, that he doesn't understand why women have such a hard time. He seems very pleasant. And then they're at the apartment, and Raj asks to see the stitches, and Howard glances at them and immediately pukes, basically, right?
Yeah.
So he shows his place as an alpha beta male. And they say, well, I guess that's why Wolowitz bailed on medical school. But I didn't know, was Wolowitz actually in medical school, or are they just talking about being a doctor?
Maybe at some point he did. They never really addressed this again.
Right,
so maybe in the past, maybe he did consider medical school, but then he decided to drop out or decided it wasn't for him.
Or it's just a joke they were having.
Yeah, it could have just been a joke too.
Right. I was like, I wonder if I was supposed to know something. Penny comes in, and like she does with the Lake House movie, she comes in or her TV show, and forces them to have a conversation or watch something. Gives congratulations to Leonard for his relationship status on Facebook. And everybody starts talking about, wait, Leonard, did you switch your status before Stephanie did? And this is still like a big thing, right? Like you can't switch your status before the other person, so it's always like an ongoing
yeah, I don't know if that's still a big thing I'm not really on Facebook anymore, so it's like, is that really a thing?
Is Facebook still a thing?
I'm also married and have a kid too. So
that means nothing, Rob. You get back on Facebook.
Unless it's on Facebook, it's not official.
And Howard says, way to look needy. And I like that because it's coming from Howard, so that was a great cue. And Penny like turns and kind of
I know, Penny just agrees. It's like, yeah, he's right.
And Leonard's like, I didn't do it. That's when they start to realize that it was Sheldon, who claims he had no choice after Leonard cried in front. And Leonard's like, you hacked my account. It's not really hacking if you have one password for everything, which is Kal-El, right?
Yep.
Which is Superman's father, right?
It's Superman himself.
Oh, it's Superman himself. Oh, I fucked that
up.
Yeah.
His father is Jor-El.
Okay. Kal-El. So it's Superman. Although I would have to say, with the capital letters in the hyphen, if you're allowed to put that hyphen, I think that would be a pretty strong password. It doesn't have
because nobody really uses. Yeah,
it's got like all three, so somebody would have to know you, and I think a lot of hacking is knowing somebody or doing like research to find what they would be putting as their password. Leonard claims Sheldon has destroyed the relationship. Sheldon says that Sheldon can't even. The worst part is Sheldon can't even understand because the worst part is he can't conceive of something he's not an expert in. And I like that line because Sheldon, the whole time between the beginning with the small talk, and I guess he was good with the baking, but everything he's pretending to be, and he's telling himself that he's an expert and he's the best knowledgeable about all this stuff, and he's getting the hang of it when he's maybe not. Sheldon corrects, in which I am not an expert, knocking Leonard down because he's ended a sentence with a preposition, which we've talked about before on a previous episode. And Leonard says, "Don't even," right? And
Yeah.
Raj squeaks in the background. And he asks, "What's wrong, Lassie? Timmy fall down the well?" A great line. And they realize that Stephanie has also updated her relationship status. And Leonard goes, "Oh, I have a girlfriend."
Like so happy.
Okay. And Sheldon claims the win. And I love that ending with Sheldon like, "Yeah, I know. That's what I was going for."
Yep.
It fell into place.
Game,
but he's...
set, match.
Exactly. And that's the episode.
There it is. We completed the White Asparagus Triangulation.
That was a fun one. I like that one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Yeah, like I said, watched it twice in a row. Really like Stephanie. It advanced storylines. And I do like that they kind of kept this relationship arc. Because like in other sitcoms, just in the world and everything like that, a lot of times they'll introduce a significant other and they kind of just drop in and out. Whereas this one actually has like a consistent like repetition to it.
And as far as we know, he's only dated
really just Joyce Kim, it seems like.
Joyce Kim, yeah. Winkle two booty calls that like at some point we need to understand that he is capable of a romantic relationship.
I guess we'll find out if he is or not.
Maybe not.
Let's count the IQ points. So 1, I am 2.
Okay, so Sheldon has come back up. He's not in first place yet, but we are at 48 points, not like Sheldon. 44 like Sheldon.
And we have 10 total IQ points.
That works for me. That's actually on the higher side of...
we did good. Yeah, like I decided to just drop one in the middle of this one. It's like, I didn't really do any research on it anyways, so it's like, no, let's just give it.
That's what I was doing when I'm just like, nah, it's not really a good one.
Yeah, let's just...
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Too interesting.
Too interesting, if you ask me.
All right. Well, that was the episode. Anything that we may have missed? Anything that you wanted to mention that we didn't?
No, I think that's all. I'm really curious if anybody wants to offer us feedback or thoughts on a mini episode, so please reach out.
Yeah, let us know what you would want a mini episode to be. Special thanks to Rebecca again for that brisket recipe. We look forward to trying that. We'll post some pictures. I'm going to have to add that to my meal plan. All right. Well, thanks again. Please remember to leave us a review on Apple. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Gingerly tap that like button. Follow us on Instagram at Theoretical Nonsense Pod. Email us at theoreticalnonsensepod@gmail.com. And we'll see you next time when we talk about Season 2, Episode 10, The Vardabadian Conundrum. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
This was Theoretical Nonsense, Big Bang Theory watch-along podcast. No PhD required. Our intro and outro music is by Al Scroll, and our logo is by John Kim. Thanks for listening.
And I just gave myself a hernia.
T-Rex.
It's short.